more than a little bit of cheese. This video is going to be long, so gather your party before we venture forth and ask, Baldur's Gate 1, was it any good? 1998 was a phenomenally good year to be a gamer. You could probably make a case for it being one of the greatest years in gaming history. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Half-Life, Metal Gear Solid, Grim Fandango, StarCraft, Resident Evil 2, Tenchu, Spyro the Dragon, Medieval, and then over on PC, a strange little Dungeons & Dragons adventure called Baldur's Gate from the company BioWare, known at the time for their only other game, Shattered Steel, a cockpit view sci-fi mech fighting game. BioWare was certainly competent, but they were not yet established market leaders, and Baldur's Gate would change that. Only 1 year later, it would go on to win Best Role-Playing Computer Game of the Year and receive extremely high reviews, averaging over 90% on Metacritic, which still stands up to this day. It would spawn an expansion, a sequel, and a spin-off hack-and-slash game. In 2012, it would be remastered into the Enhanced Edition, which took the original game and added in extra quests, items, spells, and party characters, complete with full voiceovers and a host of smaller quality of life and UI upgrades, along with a Battle Royale-style challenge called the Black Pits. The Enhanced Edition is what I'll be playing for this review, and I'll be calling out the differences with the original as they become relevant. While the Enhanced Edition did clean up a lot of the gameplay bugs, it also redid some cutscenes, and in my opinion, it lost a lot of the charm and the character of the originals. Here's the Enhanced Edition intro to Baldur's Gate 1. And now let's watch the original 1998 intro in all of its CGI glory. Personally, I feel the CGI movie was much more brutal and set the tone of the game much better. You saw how the armoured figure had to duck to get through the doorway, showing how tall he was. You saw his strength to punch through a railing. You saw the small guy trying to hit his arm and fight back and free himself from this grasp, but most importantly, the original had the line, "There are others I can show you." So we launched the game, and let's just take a moment to, together, remember the menu music. Epic, sweeping, orchestral, it's 90s fantasy condensed. One thing Baldur's Gate does incredibly well is sound design, and as we adventure on, we'll get to hear one of the best in-game soundtracks. First off, create a character, choose a portrait. These images became iconic, didn't they? Remember using them as forum avatars back in the early 2000s when forums were still a thing. As for race and class, 7 races, each with minor increases or decreases to the main attributes or extra abilities. Elves can see in the dark, gnomes make better thieves, dwarves are resistant to poison, but most importantly, every choice is viable. And then with 9 classes to choose from fighter to thief, bard to druid, but then you've got multi-classes giving skills and weaknesses of both. This will become an issue when I look at the experience cap later on, but again, every single class is viable to play the game either in a group or solo, but I'm going to try and challenge myself and finish the game solo. I'll go with tri-class fighter, mage, thief. As with all the Dungeons & Dragons games, there's also the morality system, from lawful good to chaotic evil, and while Baldur's Gate doesn't heavily push the your choices matter aspect, they actually do. Acting within the law will open up certain quests but lock off others. Acting against the law but within a moral code will change how NPCs react to you. There are entire NPCs who will either join you or attack you based on your local reputation. There are armors you can only wear if you're aligned in a certain way. This wasn't just a pick nice or nasty binary option in any conversation. This was an actual pick how the world is going to react to you based on your actions, how you'll limit yourself. Paladins taking evil or illegal actions will lose their status and become fallen paladins, losing the favour of the gods. Rangers acting immorally or against nature will become fallen rangers. And now the bit everyone spent way too long on, stat re-rolling. Clicking re-roll gives you 6 generated numbers from 3 to 18, and you can then remove and reallocate stats as long as you don't go over how many you had in the initial roll. Now in the original game we all figured out the system. You would re-roll and then reduce your stats down as low as they possibly could and work out how much you had spare to work with. You would then store the attribute, re-roll, and keep doing that until you found the highest number, trying to get the mythical 90 plus. Thankfully, the enhanced edition has a total roll counter, so this is a lot faster. Now we put some skill points into weapons, thief abilities, and choose our spells. You're going to want the abilities to set traps and the sleep spell. We will see why later. Some more customization, we choose our voice, and now the difficulty. Baldur's Gate is an unforgiving game. You will die a lot. It's a game which favours preparation and advanced knowledge more than thinking in the moment. If you go into a fight or spring a trap unprepared, you are going to die. Because while you may not prepare, the enemies always do. Story mode lets you never die and just follow the fantastic plot. Legacy of Baal mode is for when you've decided you hate yourself and want to pray to the god of quick saving. I've finished the game a few times before, but I always want a challenge, so we'll go with hard, and the opening chapter begins.
Nestled atop the cliffs that rise from the Sword Coast, the citadel of Candlekeep houses the finest and most comprehensive collection of writings on the face of Farron. It is an imposing fortress, kept in strict isolation from the intrigues that occasionally plague the rest of the Forgotten Realms. It is secluded, highly regimented, and it is home.
That voice is Kevin Michael Richardson, probably best known as Dr. Hibbert on The Simpsons. In fact, the entire voice cast of Baldur's Gate reads as a who's who of video game voice actors. Elminster is voiced by Frank Welker, the voice of Fred from Scooby-Doo. Gorion is Jim Cummings, the voice of Winnie the Pooh. You start in the safety of Candlekeep, a walled library town. The game is an isometric adventure. You can't spin the camera because the backgrounds are all uniquely designed, which for the time was strange. It was the process at the time to build video game backgrounds out of tiles, but Baldur's Gate had each map section feel closer to a painting than a video game level. The world didn't need to stick to a strict grid layout. It could ebb and flow from all angles and explore transitions from castles to muddy foundations or rivers to the pebbled shore. It used a varied colour palette and gradients that came with it. The world is a delight to look at. Left click moves us around and you can chat to most of the in-game NPCs. This tutor gives us a basic rundown of all the controls and the UI, which is slightly different in the original and the enhanced edition. Your party portraits are always shown to the right hand side, and your important pages like character profile, inventory, equipped items or spellbook are all shown to the left. So we pop into this nearby inn and talk to Winthrop, giving us one of the best opening lines of all time.
My hotel's as clean as an elven arse.
That is a simple, beautiful example of Baldur's Gate world building. Now we know this place is a hotel, Winthrop is the owner, we know it's clean, we know elves exist and are seen as prim and proper, and we know Winthrop has a dirty sense of humour. It also sets the tone of the game. Jovial, fun, light-hearted. You'll find almost every NPC in the game has at least one line of dialogue which actually helps flesh out the feel of the world. The nobles in the city telling you not to touch them, the guards acting all high and mighty. Many NPCs have their own personality and their own experiences of this world. In most games, NPCs simply exist to react to the player, because the player is the centre of the game's universe, and the NPCs have nothing else going on beyond the player. But in Baldur's Gate,